As die-hard fans of the Hellraiser movie franchise, we've all experienced that pang of curiosity about the scenes that never made it to the final cut. Those elusive moments that were left on the cutting room floor, tantalizingly teasing us with what could have been. Well, fellow cinephiles, it's time to dig deep into the dark depths of Pinhead's domain and explore every deleted scene in the Hellraiser series. From character interactions that shed new light on the story to intense exchanges that amp up the horror factor, these hidden gems offer a unique perspective on the beloved films we know and love. So, grab your puzzle box and prepare to unlock the deleted and altered scenes that may have been axed but are certainly not forgotten. Let's dive right in. But before we get into this video, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Hellraiser 1987. Number 1. Hammer scenes axed. In the chilling murder scene of Julia's first victim, 2.5 shots were missing from the final cut. One of them was a close-up of the hammer, cruelly lodged in the victim's head, adding an extra layer of brutality to this scene. Number 2. Too nude or not too nude. In a strange yet daring creative choice, the actor portraying Julia's victim insisted on shooting the murder scene in the nude, believing it added a raw vulnerability to the character. The scene successfully captured the brutal violence and the victim's desperation as he fought for his life in the rawest form. However, during post-production, the decision was made to replace the fully nude version with a semi-clothed version, likely due to concerns about the graphic nature of the scene. Despite the change, the semi-clothed murder scene still delivers a harrowing impact, so no complaints there. Number 3. Literally gut-wrenching. There were shots of Kirsty fearlessly yet apprehensively sticking her hand into the exposed belly of Frank Cotton, exposing his very guts, but once again it was something just overtly brutal and visceral. Number 4. Longer version of Frank's encounter with the Cenobites. There exists a longer version of this scene in which the Cenobites tear the crap out of Frank, turning him into bite-sized pieces. In fact, there was another shot that concluded Frank's torture as his head was made to explode, which resulted in it splashing all over the place. I think there's a reason why Stephen King once called Clive Barker the future of horror fiction. Having said that, I'm not entirely sure if it was the gore and sadomasochism that led to the success of the original film, or if it was the unique and memorable villains that Barker managed to bring to life. What do you think? Number 5. A more explicit encounter between Frank and Julia. Clive Barker revealed in a candid interview that he encountered challenges with the censors over the erotic content in his movie. Barker had originally filmed a flashback sequence that was much hotter and more explicit, depicting a sexual encounter between Frank and Julia with less violence. To be fair, there was going to be some buttock thrusts as well, if you know what I mean. However, the censors insisted on substituting the erotic undertones with a flick knife, opting for a different type of tension. Barker also shared in the movie's commentary that the seduction scene between Julia and Frank had initially been even more explicit, featuring elements of spanking. However, the Motion Picture Association of America did not take kindly to this, imposing restrictions on the number of buttock thrusts allowed in the scene. Barker humorously recounted that he was only allowed 2 consecutive buttock thrusts from Frank, as 3 was deemed obscene by the MPAA. Number 6. A pleading victim. I'm not sure if you've seen it already, but there is an uncut version of the movie available on video in the USA. This version features a few seconds of extended graphic footage in the scene where Julia, played by Claire Higgins, brutally murders one of her victims with a hammer. In this chilling scene, the victim pleads for his life, adding an extra layer of desperate tension to the already harrowing moment, providing an even more visceral and intense experience. If you're a dedicated movie buff who craves a more unfiltered and immersive viewing experience, go for this version. It's got a lot more additional content. Number 7. Frank's transformation. One particular scene axed from the film that irked me personally was that of Frank's transformation into a human. However, Clive Barker edited these out due to pacing issues. There were at least 3 additional scenes about Julia's character that were filmed but ultimately left on the cutting room floor. Number 8. Car keys. One such deleted scene occurs right after Julia instructs Kirsty to get the car keys to drive Larry to the hospital. In this scene, Kirsty pays the movers who had previously hit on her. This deleted scene adds depth to Julia's manipulation of those around her. Number 9. Same scene, different shirts. Another interesting tidbit is that there were scenes filmed featuring Julia in a different shirt than the one thrown in the theatrical version. However, the reasons for these changes are not specified. Number 10. Julia and Frank. Lastly, it's revealed that originally, during Julia's recollection of her first tryst with Frank, she starts thinking about her wedding day. Although these scenes were not included in the original film, they were apparently used in the sequel. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, 1988. Number 11. Cenobite Surgeons. In this deleted scene, which takes place during the climactic third act of the film, Kirsty and Tiffany find themselves in a hospital after escaping the labyrinth. They descend to the basement via elevator, only to be confronted by two masked surgeons. These eerie figures warn them that they cannot be in that area, but as they speak, their appearance begins to transform into that of Cenobites, namely Pinhead and the female Cenobite. Bloodstains appear on their gowns and pins erupt from the head of the male doctor, signaling their otherworldly nature. The tension rises as the surgeons chase Kirsty and Tiffany, who frantically try to escape. The pursuit continues as the Cenobite surgeons follow the ladies to another elevator that closes just in time, trapping the Chatterer in the closing doors. However, the horror doesn't end there, as the Chatterer lunges at them on the next floor. Kirsty and Tiffany narrowly dodge the attack and manage to evade the Cenobite. In an interview, Doug Bradley, who portrayed Pinhead in the Hellraiser franchise, revealed that there were discussions about the possibility of Pinhead discovering his human origins in later films. However, there were concerns about how it might be confusing for the audience if Pinhead had already appeared in human form before his discovery. This consideration was important in maintaining clarity and continuity for the audience. Additionally, Bradley mentioned that there were issues with the special effects not working quite as intended. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, 1992. Number 12. Paramount's DVD release. The long out-of-print DVD release from Paramount, carrying an R rating, actually contains a completely different version of the film. It includes both the uncut sex scene and the uncut gore scenes that were originally part of the unrated version, resulting in a total runtime of 93 minutes, as opposed to the true version of 91 minutes. Additionally, there are two music alterations, most notably in the end credits. Instead of the original classic Hellraiser score gradually fading out, the DVD features a sudden stinger sound effect followed by Hellraiser blasting over the soundtrack. Furthermore, the sound quality on this DVD is noticeably poor, heavily compressed at only 98 kilobytes per second. It seems that this print matches the Lionsgate Canadian DVD release that had been available for years, with the Paramount version being presented in anamorphic widescreen while the Lionsgate release lacks this feature. Paramount's Laserdisc version. This exclusive, unrated Laserdisc from Paramount found in the US is a gem of a version that features some additional juicy footage that was not included in the theatrical release. It has got several deleted and altered scenes. Number 13. The Dancing Girl. One notable addition is a brief scene in the Boiler Room nightclub where a topless girl can be seen dancing, but that's not all. Number 14. Terry's Loneliness. We also get two entirely new scenes that shed further light on the characters and their motivations. After Terry moves out from Joey, we see her in the boiler room witnessing a couple in love, which only serves to deepen her sense of loneliness. She then purchases some coffee and comes face to face with JP, who utters the line, "Hey baby, glad you could make it." Number 15. Elliot's Past. Another new scene features Elliot and Joey standing around a campfire as Elliot opens up about his past, adding a poignant moment of character development. There's also a scene showing Elliot buying the box in an Indian bazaar, further adding to the mythology of the story. Number 16. Trimmed Nightclub Massacre Scene. Last but not least, there's the nightclub massacre sequence, which was previously trimmed for the UK theatrical version, but restored to its uncut glory in this unrated release. I must say that the original cut of the boiler room massacre scene in the film was quite intense. It featured a man slashing his own face with a broken martini glass, a woman having half of her face gruesomely torn off by a hook, and CD Cenobite with even more graphic and horrifying imagery. The brutality continued with a man having his jaw ripped off by a hook, and a nod to the female Cenobite from the earlier films, as a woman's throat was sliced in half with wires pulling the flesh to the sides. The scene also included a chilling sight of a long line of people hooked together, with one woman having a chain attached to her throat and another man with a chain going through his chest. The original version of this scene was undoubtedly not for the faint of heart.
Come on!
Hellraiser Bloodline, 1996. It's disheartening to learn that Hellraiser Bloodline underwent significant changes during post-production. The original vision of the film, helmed by director Kevin Yagher, was meant to be a unique anthology with 3 interwoven storylines set in different time periods: past, present, and future. However, due to studio interference, the film was ultimately re-edited and transformed into a Hellraiser in space concept, a departure from Yagher's original vision. It's evident that Yagher's departure from the project before its completion was a significant loss for the film, and Chappelle's involvement was aimed at salvaging the project rather than fulfilling the original creative vision. Number 17. Summoning Angelique was to have darker themes. Hellraiser Bloodline was supposed to kick off with Duke Delisle and Jacques delving into the dark arts to summon Angelique. Instead of the iconic puzzle box, black magic was supposed to set the wheels in motion. It would have been a tantalizingly eerie opening, hinting at the supernatural forces at play in the film. However, this intriguing beginning was left on the cutting room floor. Number 18. Philip's wife warned him. After Philip Le Marchand completes the puzzle box, there was originally a scene where his wife, Genevieve, stumbles upon him with it. But instead of being impressed, she finds it dull. But hey, Philip is not one to be discouraged easily. Determined to pursue his obsession to make the greatest puzzle box ever, he wastes no time and heads straight to Duke with the box in hand. Number 19. The inspiration behind Elysium configuration. In the original cut of the film, there was a captivating scene where Philip is paid a visit by his friend Auguste. Auguste plants the seed of an idea in Philip's mind to design the infamous Elysium configuration. As Philip diligently works on his creation, he's interrupted by the sultry and seductive Angelique, who tries to lure him into her web with promises of riches and more work at a grand party at the chateau. But their rendezvous is cut short when Genevieve, Philip's wife, walks in on them. As Angelique slinks away, she crosses paths with Auguste, who warns Philip about her and shares troubling news of gamblers gone missing. Auguste offers to help Philip, but little does he know that Angelique was watching him through a crow's eyes. Auguste then encounters a troupe of traveling clowns who offer to perform for him, but before he knows it, he's thrust into a nightmarish descent into hell, caught up in their eerie performance. Meanwhile, as Philip prepares to attend the grand ball at the chateau, Genevieve, who is pregnant, pleads with him to stay. But Philip remains resolute in his pursuit, fueled by his obsession with the puzzle box and Angelique's promises. Number 20. Angelique's stripping game. Philip gets to the chateau party and meets up with Jax and Delisle. They take him inside to see Angelique, who's busy entertaining a bunch of gamblers in the next room. Angelique takes the lament configuration from Philip and thanks him, but he's not satisfied and sneaks back to peek through the window. And what he sees is seriously messed up. Angelique starts playing a twisted game with the gamblers, using the lament configuration. For each move they make, she takes off a piece of clothing. But things escalate real quick when they finally open the box, and Angelique goes all naked and demonic. The gamblers freak out and try to run, but they're restrained, and the chandelier in the room turns into 4 metal spikes that impale them. It's a total bloodbath. Philip is understandably horrified and makes a run for it, realizing he's gotten in way over his head with the Cenobites and their dark games. It's a messed up scene that would have added some seriously twisted horror to the movie if it hadn't been cut. Number 21. The Anteroom's Horror. Angelique takes Philip to the anteroom, where she's all flirty and seductive, giving him some serious come-hither vibes. But before things can get too steamy, 4 masked figures show up and whisk her away back to the party, leaving Philip all alone and probably frustrated. Meanwhile, Genevieve has had enough of Philip's shenanigans and decides to go after him. She leaves her home and heads straight to the chateau to drag her wayward husband back home where he belongs. Number 22. Angelique protects Philip. So, after the wild ball is finally over, Duke Delisle confronts Philip and asks him what Angelique tastes like. Then he introduces Philip to the pentagram that he used to summon Angelique and spills the beans that the lament configuration was meant to replace it. But Delisle isn't ready to call it quits just yet. He tries to kill Philip, who falls right into the pentagram trap, but Angelique swoops in to save the day. She grabs Delisle and tosses him out a window like he's yesterday's trash. Talk about a power move. Number 23. Angelique's Zombie Gamblers. As if things couldn't get any weirder, Angelique turns her attention to Philip after tossing Delisle out the window. She's still all about seducing him, but when he refuses, she decides to take things up a notch. She unleashes her zombie clowns, who roll a freaky drum made of Auguste's face towards Philip. But Philip's not backing down. He declares he's designed the Elysium configuration and can undo the cursed Lament configuration. Suddenly, Angelique's guests reveal themselves. It's the 4 gamblers, but now they're zombie gamblers, like early Cenobite prototypes. Angelique continues to menace Philip, upping the stakes and making things even more intense. Number 24. Genevieve finally arrives. Genevieve finally makes it to the chateau and finds Philip in a gruesome state, barely holding on. But before they can catch a breath, Angelique and her zombie gamblers show up, hell-bent on killing Genevieve's unborn child to prevent the bloodline from continuing. But just when things seem dire, Delisle makes a surprising move. He grabs Angelique from behind and drags her into the pentagram, unleashing an incantation that banishes her to hell. The room is left empty, and Philip, Delisle, and the zombie gamblers all disappear into thin air. Genevieve is left shaken to the core, and without wasting a moment, she bolts to America, scared out of her mind. Number 25. Learning from others' mistakes. As Pinhead is defeated, the scene cuts back to Earth, where Angelique is summoned once again, but this time by Jax. He reveals that he has learned from Duke Delisle's mistake and promises never to stand in the way of hell again. Well, someone probably soiled their pants. Number 26. Dr. Merchant's Nightmare. In an extra scene on the space station, Dr. Merchant wakes up from a nightmare looking quite different with a full head of hair. He reaches out to a hologram of a priest and asks him to pray for his entire bloodline. Deep in contemplation, he then takes a razor and shaves his head, as if symbolizing a drastic change or transformation. Furthermore, in the original version, when John wakes up from his nightmare, there was a touching scene where he comforts Jack and his wife. However, due to timing issues, this scene was ultimately cut. Number 27. More nightmares. In another one of John's nightmares, Angelique tempts and then brutally kills the gamblers, just as described earlier. And in yet another nightmare, Delisle tries to kill Philip after revealing his plan to send Angelique back to hell, fearing that Philip's puzzle box will surpass his own black magic. Number 28. Angelique's intentions. There was a cut scene set in the film's present day, where Angelique reveals her plan to John. She tells him that she wants him to use the Elysium configuration to defeat Pinhead and the Cenobites, who seek to subjugate her. She tempts John with the promise of becoming more than a mere demon and descending into godhood. However, there's another scene on the related subject. Enraged by her actions, Pinhead summons his signature hooks and chains, which ensnare Angelique and drag her into the light. In a disturbing display, Pinhead takes perverse pleasure in her torture, even going so far as to lick the blood from the hooks. As he indulges in his sadistic tendencies, he senses that Angelique has a secret, revealed through tasting her blood. However, before the scene can unfold further, it abruptly cuts out. Number 29. John gets distracted. During his speech, John becomes deeply distracted by Angelique, to the point that he fails even to continue speaking. Fueled by his overwhelming desire to use the Elysium configuration, he attempts to demonstrate it to the audience. The device lights up for a brief moment, but then abruptly shuts down, leaving John rather confused. Number 30. Alternate ending. In the final part of the film, things unfold similarly to the theatrical version, but with a few differences. Paul doesn't end up telling his story to Rimmer. During the climactic confrontation, all the Cenobites, including Angelique, try to persuade Paul to join them once again. However, he remains resolute in his refusal, choosing to stay on board the SS Minos. In a dramatic turn of events, Paul ultimately meets his demise alongside Pinhead and the Cenobites, bringing an end to the bloodline once and for all. Hellraiser Hellseeker 2002. Number 31. Longer conversation between Trevor and the Drifter. In an alternate scene featuring Trevor and the enigmatic Drifter, a gripping conversation takes place, leaving viewers on the edge of their seats. The Drifter, exuding an air of mystery, offers Trevor a way out of his desperate situation, promising something exquisite, devoid of remorse or regret. He introduces a musical puzzle, which was, of course, the Lament configuration, believed to be the key to breaking the surface of reality itself. He goes on to say that some were destined to master the puzzle immediately, while others spend a lifetime trying to solve it. Once the threshold is crossed, however, there is no turning back. As Trevor grapples with the decision, the Drifter asks if Trevor was willing to pay the price, when Trevor offers him a bundle of cash. However, the Drifter warns him that the price was far greater than he could imagine, but Trevor says he was ready. Well, he wouldn't have said that if he had watched the other Hellraiser films. Number 32. The Fate of Kirsty's Father. In Hellraiser Hellseeker, there was originally an extended scene that shed light on the fate of Kirsty Cotton's father, Larry. It is revealed that Larry, along with Frank and Julia, were waiting in hell for Kirsty to arrive one day, with Larry eagerly longing to be reunited with his daughter. However, this scene was largely cut down in the final version of the film, leaving Larry's fate in limbo. It's unfair that Larry would be dragged to hell despite not doing anything wrong, but the alternate scene would have been the highlight of Hellraiser Hellseeker. Furthermore, Cenobites like Chatterer, Bound, Stitch, and Surgeon Cenobites also appear in this scene. Hellraiser Deader, 2005. Number 33. Spike, the frightening Cenobite who never made it to the film. Spike, the character originally intended for the films Hellraiser Hellworld and Hellraiser Deader, was a complex and terrifying Cenobite with a dark backstory. As a human, he was a respected railroad worker, but he harbored a disturbing secret. When night fell, he indulged in sadistic acts, forcibly preying on young or underage girls using spiky objects, deriving pleasure from their screams in pain. His twisted path took a fateful turn when he stumbled upon the infamous Lament configuration and solved it, unknowingly summoning Pinhead. Pinhead took him to Hell, where the engineers, the celestial beings who transform humans into Cenobites, punished him for his heinous deeds. They impaled a large spike through his head, leaving him with no eyes, nose, or mouth, and covering his cracked skull with a metal helmet. He was also clad in a black leather suit, reminiscent of Pinhead's attire, and his face was stretched back with metal bearings, exposing his bare skull. The transformation stripped Spike of his human senses and the ability to speak, mirroring the pain he had inflicted on his victims. The grotesque and haunting appearance of Spike as a Cenobite was a chilling reflection of his past deeds, which is in line with the twisted poetic justice that Cenobites carry with them for eternity. Hellraiser Revelations 2011. Number 34. Getting the Lament configuration. In a longer and alternate scene, the boys encounter the Vagrant in Mexico in a stairwell instead of at a table. The Vagrant goes on to give them a more detailed explanation of the puzzle box, calling it the ultimate experience. He describes how to someone near death, every day is their best day, and every sensation is like a symphony. When Nico offers to buy the box, the Vagrant tells him that it's not really a matter of coin, as it's already his. It always was. Number 35. Getting off on dark things. In the deleted scene between Nico and Steven, they're shooting the breeze about their encounters with women and the recent incident at the nightclub. Nico describes it as a crazy, mind-bending rush that made him feel like he was someone else entirely. Well, he was, in fact, talking about the tragic incident that happened with one of the girls. Steven bluntly asks if he got off on it, and Nico snaps back, telling him it's not about that, but about the sheer intensity of the experience. Just as they're getting into it, they suddenly realize that their car has been stolen, and they freak out. It's a double whammy for them, and they're left scrambling, trying to wrap their heads around the situation while dealing with the adrenaline rush from their earlier conversation. Number 36. Meet Dr. Scotch. In the original version, Peter and Ross were having a heart-to-heart over some scotch. Peter tells Ross he needs a second opinion and jokes about his friend and physician, Dr. Scotch. They clink their glasses and head back to join their wives in the kitchen. Peter asks Kate if they can join them, and she quips sure, but only if you bring me one of those, pointing to his glass of scotch. It's a lighthearted moment that adds some humor to their conversation and highlights Kate's fondness for a good drink. But of course, it must have killed the pace of an already questionable film. Number 37. Emma worries about Steven. In this deleted scene, Kate and Emma are seen going through Steven's closet, packing up some of his belongings. Emma expresses her confusion about Steven's sudden return and admits she doesn't know if he's okay. Kate tries to offer some comfort, telling her to stay strong and assuring her that everything will be okay. Number 38. Sarah and Kate get into a small argument. In a deleted scene, Sarah and Kate have a heated exchange in the kitchen. Sarah is in tears, which angers Kate. She tells Sarah to stop crying, reminding her that she has a son and a daughter now that Steven is back, while Kate has nothing. Sarah tries to apologize, but Kate is unforgiving, accusing her of not considering other people's feelings, including those who cared for her. Sarah, becoming angry, comments that she knows all about her husband's feelings about her. Still, Kate insists that nothing happened. Sarah apologizes again and tries to reconcile, saying that they're in this together. However, Kate, still grieving, disagrees, stating that they are not in this together as she has lost her son forever. Sarah hugs Kate and apologizes once more, admitting she has been difficult. Number 39. The Puzzle Box. In the longer version of the kitchen scene, the characters are all gathered around talking about the puzzle box, and Emma insists that it's hers, claiming that it was a gift from Stephen. Ross then wonders if Stephen can talk now and explain what happened, but Emma interjects and says he's tired and sleeping, gripping the puzzle box protectively. She gets defensive and feisty, insisting that the puzzle box belongs to her. This leads to Ross getting irritated and telling everyone to let it go for the moment. Hellraiser Judgment, 2018. Number 40. Shaky Faith. Detectives Sean and Christine are in a random church having a heart-to-heart about religion, the Old Testament, and their own experiences as lapsed Christians. They ramble on, sharing their doubts, struggles, and reflections on faith. While this scene didn't make the final cut as it may seem cliché and doesn't directly advance the plot, fans of Hellraiser can still appreciate this human-centered moment that occurs outside the dark realm of Pinhead's lair. That's the end of our list, but delving into the deleted scenes of the Hellraiser movie franchise is a fascinating journey for any true horror movie aficionado. So whether you're a die-hard Pinhead enthusiast or simply intrigued by the behind-the-scenes magic of filmmaking, exploring these deleted scenes is a treat that adds a whole new dimension to the Hellraiser experience. If you've reached this point of the video, I take it that you're a true fan. So you should definitely check out our playlist on the Hellraiser franchise. Marvelous videos will continue to unravel the mysteries of the Lament configuration, so keep your eyes peeled and your chains at the ready. And, as always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, be safe out there, and have a marvelous day.
It's an earthquake. Everyone, just stay calm.